Are you a fan of archery games and virtual reality, or at least games that implement archery particularly well? You know the ones I'm talking about. In Death Unchained, Quiver, Dungeons of Eternity, Elven Assassin, GrimLord, the list goes on and on. Well, if you are, and if you're looking for that extra bit of immersion, that chef's kiss, that thing that makes you feel like you're really, really in the game, the DeadEye ShadowShot might be what you're looking for. It definitely makes the game feel more immersive. Will it improve your gameplay? Let's talk about it. What's up? It's Cayman Wolf, the Decrepit Gamer, and I'm back for another product review. I've got a very interesting one today. Before we go any further, let me just say I am not sponsored by these guys. Unless one of those guys happens to stumble across this video, they have no idea who I am. I bought this with my own money for my own use. So if you follow my channel, please do, by the way. I'm really small and I'm trying to grow. But if you follow my channel, you'll know that last couple of months on Saturday evenings, I've been streaming a little game called Death Unchained. Well, if you know anything about that game, it's an archery game. You have one weapon in that game, and it's a bow. Now, personally, I feel like archery is something that's just really conducive to VR, just because of the way it works. And unlike a gun stock, you don't really need some sort of attachment to improve your gameplay when you're using a virtual bow in VR, at least in my experience. But gameplay is one thing and immersion is another thing, and they are definitely not inextricably linked. Now, personally, I love highly immersive experiences in VR. I play a lot of shooters, and I never play without my gun stock. And it's not because it improves my gameplay, although it does. It's because there's nothing like feeling that gun in my hand. And the same thing holds true for a bow when I'm playing archery games. That's why I got very, very excited when I came across the DeadEyeVR ShadowShot. So the first thing I want to do is an unboxing and an assembly to show you how this thing looks when it comes to you from DeadEyeVR. At the time of this video, I could not find this on Amazon. I saw where they had carried it at one time, but when I ordered it, I had to order it directly from DeadEyeVR. The link is in the description. If you don't care for unboxings, there's timestamps in the description. You can skip straight on ahead to the gameplay, or you can just skip right on to the end where I summarize this thing and tell you whether or not I think it's worth your money. All right, so here we are with the DeadEyeVR ShadowShot, exactly as it arrived to me from DeadEyeVR. There's two boxes here. I ordered actually two things from DeadEyeVR, the ShadowShot VR bow attachment and the Master Breaker haptic billiard cue. So I think that's both of these items here together. And so we'll open them up here and see which one is which. And if I open the Master Breaker first, I'll just set it aside. Look for a review of the Master Breaker, by the way, coming up on my channel soon. Both of these items seem to be extraordinarily well packaged. Yes, and this is the ShadowShot, the lighter of the two. Let's see what we've got here. We've got a parts list. This parts list shows that we've got a controller cup, a Allen key, neoprene pads, whatever that's for, a bow riser, and two bow arms. And then on the back here, we have some, what looks like pretty straightforward assembly instructions. We'll see. Here we've got the Allen key. Oh, also a screw that was on the parts list that I didn't see when I was showing it to you guys. Okay, there's the Allen key and the screw. Looks like this is the bow riser. Here is the controller mount. And here are the two bow arms. These are obviously the neoprene pads. And so here is what was in the box. Everything was here. It was packaged well. This is a pre-assembled DeadEyeVR ShadowShot. So let's put this thing together and see what that involves. Step one, screw the controller cup into the bow riser with the included screw. Having a little trouble making sure that screw is properly aligned so it doesn't strip. Here we go, I think that's got it. There we go, we'll make sure it's nice and snug. Step two, insert both bow arms into the slots of the bow riser. So there's this piece right here, which means that these bow arms should only face one direction or the other when you insert that bow arm into the riser. And there's nothing on here that's telling me or indicating what direction it should face. I can look down here on step number 6 and make an assumption based on the way they're hooking that string onto there. So I'm going to assume that this little hook portion here faces away from the string. There we go. Had to use a little bit of force there, but once it started, it was fine. All right. Step 3, orient the bowstring with the finger cushions above the arrow shaft. So that means to make sure that they are on the same side as the controller mount. Finger cushions, controller mount. Okay, that looks properly oriented. Step 4, hook the lower loop of the bowstring onto the lower bow arm. Okay. Step 5, place the lower bow arm against the floor or a table and bend the upper bow arm downward. And then I think we're going to have to go right into step 6 here, which says hook the upper loop of the bowstring onto the upper bow arm. All right, so I'm just going to use my leg here so you guys can see. It says we got to bend these, which I'm bending that lower one down there too against my leg, and hook this. Okay. All right, and then it says use the neoprene pads to cushion the controller in the controller cup. Note the markings for pad placement based on Quest model. The Quest 3 controllers are a little smaller than the others, and so for the Quest 3 you need both pads in place, where for the Quest 2 or Quest Pro, just the one is all you need. So I'm attempting to carefully put that pad in place so it goes within that little groove the way it's supposed to. There we go. That's one. There we go. That's the other. Honestly, I feel like the order of operations there should have been a little bit different. It would have been much easier to put those pads in before we mounted this controller, so we didn't have this bow, in the way as we tried to orient this thing in different directions in order to be able to see in there to mount that pad, but we got it done. 8, for optional knuckle straps, place the controller in the controller cup and slide the strap through the slot, then clench to hand size. I happen to have some AMVR knuckle straps that I use religiously, so let me go get a controller and see how that works. Okay, I don't know if this will work with the AMVR knuckle straps or if you have to use their proprietary knuckle straps. I really hope that it works with these, because I love these knuckle straps. So let's just see. I've also got this little wrist strap here that I'm going to put through here. So now I've got the knuckle strap and the wrist strap going through that hole in the bottom. I hope that this works. Let's just see. There we go. It seems like with the AMVR knuckle straps, the controller doesn't quite go down as far into the mount as I believe it's intended to. Now, it's not really very secure, so I'm not sure. I may end up ordering the knuckle straps from these guys. It just doesn't sit as secure as I would like it to, and I feel like it's going to kind of come loose and feel loose in my hand, but I don't know. We'll give it a try. We'll try it in some games and see how that works. I'll let you guys know. I have a feeling that maybe I'll end up ordering the proprietary ones. I didn't realize that they had proprietary knuckle straps, or I would have ordered them when I ordered the rest of this stuff, but we'll see. Anyway, this is a fully assembled DeadEyeVR ShadowShot bow attachment for the Quest 3. Now let's do the thing that I'm really looking forward to and go try it out in some games. All right, here we are with our new ShadowShot VR. And I think what I'm going to do is take this first into Death Unchained. As anyone who plays this game knows, it's really, I mean, it's strictly a bow game, really. And so this would seemingly be a perfect attachment for it. It may or it may not be, for reasons that I'll talk about when we get past the gameplay portion of my video. But right now, let's just jump on into Death Unchained and see how this thing is gonna work for us. All right, here we are inside of in Death Unchained, and I'm on a new profile. I started this is a new game, and the reason I'm doing that is because I don't want challenging higher level gameplay. I just want to see how the shadow shot is going to work for us. Okay, so the trigger is the thing that you use to grab your arrow in this game, and it also can conveniently be the finger that you use to, your trigger finger can be the finger that you use to grab the bowstring, which makes it very natural. That feels very natural. Oh yeah, I like the feeling of it. My physical bowstring is not exactly where my virtual bowstring is. If I put my hand on my virtual bowstring, you can see I've got my fingers on my virtual bowstring, and it's right there beside my physical bowstring. So, but that's not too terribly distracting. It's once I grab it, the virtual bowstring lines up. I wonder if that can be modified in some way. I don't see a way to change the grip on your bow the same way that you would in a shooter, compensating for a physical gun stock. Anyway, okay, well, let's head on into Purgatory here and see what we can do. You know, I'm tempted to not even try to use my physical bow when I fire the teleport arrow, because it uses a different finger, and it's a little more awkward to release them both at the same time. It doesn't feel as natural. Something else that I've already done here is I've already taken off the AMVR knuckle strap, because it did not allow that controller to be seated firmly within that controller mount, and the fact that it was loose was causing me to have to grip this controller mount particularly hard in order to, you know, not let the bow move around, because the controller itself didn't sit in it very firmly. So I was having to grip the bottom of it with these bottom two fingers, and it was uncomfortable. So I've taken that off. I think they might have some proprietary knuckle straps that are designed to use with this controller mount. If they do, I'm probably going to order those. I do like the way it's your trigger finger that activates the arrows in this game, because it's very natural to grab the string that way. To grab both the trigger and the string at the same time. If you notice, I'm not using the bowstring to fire these teleport arrows. It's just too unnatural. I also find myself continuously grabbing the string in someplace other than these finger pads here, which, I mean, that's okay. I'm sure that that's going to get better with practice. I've only just, used this. I've only just shot a half a dozen arrows with this thing, so I'm sure that will become more natural, but it is just an observation. Ironically, I feel less accurate with it than I do without it. But again, I believe that that is just due to the fact that I've only started using the thing. I can tell you that just like with a gun stock, it feels incredible to have a physical bow in your hands. I mean, it's really an incredible feeling. I mean, it feels like this fucking thing that you're holding right here is real, I mean, you feel it. You feel the tension in the bowstring. You feel it pop when you release, you feel that thwack, that thwang, that twang of the bowstring. You feel the weight of it. Oh yeah, I believe the accuracy will come right back. It's the thing is, when you fire a bow, when you draw the string, you have to put your hand in the same position every time. And that allows you to use the arrowhead to aim, or your bow sight to aim, because the bow is always held in exactly the same position. That compensates for not having like a rear sight like on a gun. And when I'm using this physical bow, I feel like my hands are in a slightly different position than they are when I'm not using it. When I'm not using it, I can put my hands, I don't have the constraints of having the bowstring there. So I think that may have something to do with the accuracy, and I really feel that the accuracy is going to come back as I get accustomed to using this thing. I wonder how difficult it is to use slow time in this game with this thing. Oh yeah. Yeah, that works good. Oh yeah, the slow time is not a problem at all. Oh yeah, the slow time works fine. Perfect. So if that's a technique that you use in this game, you can do that just as well with this attachment as without it. All right, and now we're going to try this ShadowShot with another one of my favorite games, Dungeons of Eternity. There's going to be an additional challenge in this game, and that is that you're not only using a bow. So is it even really possible to switch to this thing and then switch out of it to a different weapon? I'm changing into a t-shirt here, hoping that, I had that shirt tail from that button-down shirt that was kind of covering my belt. And I'm hoping that maybe that's going to make it easier to store this thing, slip this part through my belt and store it and take it back out. I don't really have high hopes that it's going to be convenient to try to change weapons in the middle of like a combat situation or something, but we'll see if it helps at all. Okay, so we're going to get this thing out. We're going to slip our controller in here. Pull this thing out this way. Okay, yeah, that worked a little easier. So in Dungeons of Eternity, your grip on your bowstring and on your arrows is a little different. You use the grip button with your middle finger rather than the trigger button with your index finger. So we'll see how that wants to act. Yeah, so I thought it was going to be awkward to grab the virtual bowstring with my grip button with my middle finger and grab the physical bowstring with my index finger, because I can't, once I grab an arrow, I can't wrap. See, if I let go to wrap my fingers around the bowstring, the physical bowstring, it lets go of the arrow. So my only choice here is, once I grab an arrow, I can't let go of this arrow. So my only choice here is to grab the bowstring with my index finger. And I thought that was going to be awkward to fire the bow, but it's not. It feels very natural to let go with my index finger and my middle finger at the same time. And it's not even something I would think about, honestly. It feels very natural to do it. Yeah, so once you have the bow attachment in your hand, grabbing your bow, grabbing an arrow, knocking the arrow, and firing, it's pretty fluid. Yeah, so you can actually muster a surprisingly decent rate of fire out of this thing. Is it as fast as you would be able to fire without it? No, it's not. You could fire faster without it because you've got no resistance. You've got nothing that you're trying to physically grab. You're just making that motion free-handed without it. But I'm actually surprised at how quickly you can fire with it. And you've got that immersion factor. So yeah, I mean, it feels good. It feels good to use, really does. the accuracy that I needed to hit those zombies in the head. Yeah, so if you've got this thing in your hand already, you can definitely pull out another one-handed weapon and, you know, fight with them both in your hand. But it would be very, very impractical right now for me to try to put this thing up and like grab a two-handed weapon or something like that. Yeah, now when you're not in combat and you got all the time in the world, it's not that inconvenient to use this little trick that I've been doing of sticking this thing into your your belt, or maybe if you make a little loop out of some leather or something like that here on your side, it's not that inconvenient to stick it there, and it doesn't get in your way too bad, you know, when you're carrying it around like this, but definitely not something that you're going to be able to do in combat. See, no way would I be able to get out this bow right now. So I suppose that if I wanted to switch away from the bow, like in a situation like this, I could simply drop it on the ground. I mean, that works. But there's going to be no getting that bow back until this fight is over. There's no way I'll be able to switch back to it. I mean, I could switch back to my bow in the game, but not with that attachment. You know, if I want to switch back to my bow now, I got to do it without the attachment. See? That attachment, I got to bend down, pick it up, and remount this controller and all of that. So lastly, we're going to try this out on one other game that I feel like implements a bow particularly well, and that is GrimLord. This is one I've been streaming a very good bit lately. Actually, all of these games that I'm trying this attachment on are games that I play on a pretty regular basis. But GrimLord's been my most recent. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, not bad. Yeah, it feels in here very similar to the way it does in the other games. You still got that same issue of you're not going to be able to switch weapons very easily. I mean, if you want to switch away from your bow, you're just going to have to drop the attachment. And if you want to switch back to it, you know, in the heat of battle or whatever, you're going to have to use it without the attachment. But it feels very good. It feels very good in this game. This game's got a little bit more of a sense of realism to it than I feel like the other two that we've been looking at. And it's, you know, I'm holding this bow this way and I'm pulling this string this way and I'm feeling that tension. I'm feeling that bow in my hand, and it's really awesome, man. I mean, it really is. The immersion is freaking fantastic. If I can hit him right in the face, he'll go down. Yep. Let's get this guy up there. See, like here, for example, I know because I've played this game, I happen to know that there's some guys up there that I would rather melee than use my bow. So I could put the bow up right here. But, you know, if that weren't the case, when I came here and I said, oh, this looks like a melee fight. In order to switch this bow, there's just no practical way that I'm going to get this damn thing put up in time. So I just drop that on the ground right there, pull out my melee weapons, and then I'm fighting. And then there's an archer up there. Now my bow is on the ground. So I've really got no choice here. I've just got to use it without the attachment. As much as I want to use the attachment, I've got to use it without it. because I just don't have time to pick it up off the ground, get my controller reseated, and get back in action. There we go. Yeah, any of these games where you need to switch weapons a lot, it's quite inconvenient to use. So, I gotta, look up under my headset, look around here on the ground to find out where I dropped it, pick it back up and reseat the controller. But it is immersive as hell. And it is just like really freaking awesome, man, to feel this bow in your hands. Feel that tension on that string when you pull it back. One of the things that I do when I shoot a bow in VR that I tend to do, and my son who's taken archery and shot competitively in school, he has corrected me on my technique, a number of times. One thing that I tend to do is when I draw this string in VR, I tend to just pull my hand back to my mouth here and just let my elbow rest down there by my side, which is very, very poor technique. Your elbow should be in line with the arrow. And when you let fly, you shouldn't let your hand fly like that. So when you're using this attachment, you've actually got tension on a real bowstring there. So it is much easier to use the proper technique. As a matter of fact, it's more natural to use the correct technique than it is to use the incorrect technique, because you've got tension here. And it's a respectable amount of tension. It's not like a 60 or 80 pound draw on a real long competitive longbow, but it's enough that you definitely feel it. You definitely have to draw it back with a little pressure, and you definitely feel the kind of the recoil when you fire there. Which brings me probably to my last point that I want to make while I'm in here doing some testing in these games. This thing puts some wear on your finger, man. I did a full dungeon in Dungeons of Eternity, all the way through to the boss at the end. And by the time it was over, my finger I was feeling it, boy, it was hurting. And it can get quite painful. So you'll want to use it just a little bit at first, and then a little more, and then a little more as you get used to it, just like you would if you were playing a guitar or something that requires you to, build up some calluses or some muscle tension or resistance or whatever the hell it is that you build up. You're definitely going to have to do it with this attachment, because it starts to hurt after a while. So what are the pros and cons here of the DeadEyeVR ShadowShot? Well, first of all, let's talk about the pros. The first pro and the biggest pro is immersion. Immersion. Man, it is awesome to feel that bow in your hand. And guys, when you shoot this thing in that VR space and you draw this bow back like this, you feel it. You are holding that bow, and it is extremely immersive. You've just never, if you like archery games, you've just never experienced an archery game like that. It's awesome. So the immersion is a huge plus. Unfortunately, that's probably the only plus. Not only will the DeadEyeVR ShadowShot not improve your gameplay, it's likely to hurt your gameplay. The immersion feels great, and you can, as you saw in the gameplay, you can fire it much more rapidly than I thought you would be able to, but you could never match that speed of an open, empty-handed, fluid motion of rapid firing a bow in Death Unchained or in Dungeons of Eternity. I'm going like this because one of them, you don't have to reach back and grab an arrow and knock it, and one of them you do. But either way, you will never get that kind of speed out of a mechanical device like the DeadEyeVR ShadowShot, because you've actually got the string, you've got to pull the string back, you've got to let the string pop, and that takes time, and you can't fire that thing any faster than that mechanical process can happen. I would say that with some practice, it doesn't probably hurt your accuracy, but I can't believe that it is really going to help your accuracy. It certainly didn't help mine. And lastly, just as if you were firing a real bow, this right here, guys, after doing this quite a few times, that starts to hurt. Now, I think if you use this thing a lot, I think you'll, eventually build up some calluses and you'll get used to it. But at least initially, be prepared for some finger pain and some hand cramps. In terms of price, I would say the price is not bad. I paid $59 for it. I mean, it's about what I would expect. So, do I recommend this thing? I would say if you're like me and you love immersion in VR games, and that's what you're looking for, you're looking for the sensation of having that bow in your hand and feeling immersed and experiencing the game in as realistic of a way as possible, this thing is awesome. And yes, I highly recommend it. If you're looking for something to improve your gameplay, no. No, I don't think you're looking in the right place. It pains me to say it because I love it. I think it's awesome. It's a lot of fun, but I couldn't recommend this product. Well, guys, I think that's it. I hope you've gotten something out of this. If you have, please consider liking and subscribing and all of that stuff. I'm a very small channel and I'm trying real hard to grow. I hope you did get some benefit out of this. For more product reviews, game reviews, news, tips, tricks, hints, and awesome gameplay videos, subscribe to the Decrepit Gamer channel. Until next time, this is Cayman Wolf, the Decrepit Gamer, reminding you you're never too old to game. And for now, my friends, I am out of here. Woo!